Okay, my dear friends, I need a favor from you today. And it's not anything that's going to cost you money, and it's really very simple and easy to do. And it might be the blessing that someone is looking for. I just need you to like, to comment, or to share this video. And it's so simple. All you have to do in the comment section is just thank you. It really helps us with the algorithms of the YouTube. It means we get seen by a lot more people. So post a comment. If you have a prayer request or a question, you can post that as well. I'll be sure to answer them. It will help us and it will help the world out greatly. Thank you. You are a blessing to us and to the world. And until we see each other again, God bless us all. Hello, this is Reverend Ken. Thank you for joining us. Today we're not going to have our sign language interpreter. Randy, I volunteer, is on his honeymoon for the next 2 weeks, but he will be back with us shortly. To begin our service, let's use a reading and opening affirmative prayer. I'm reading from my book, Whispers of Heaven, and in it I wrote, "Today I consciously let go of every discord. I drop any sense of lack or limitation from my thought. I release every belief I've ever had in fear." So I'm going to do this prayer in the first person. Take it in for yourself. If I say something that works for you, well, hold tight to that. If I say something that doesn't work for you, just let that part slide by. But just know this truth with me today. There's but one God, one mind, one power. That power is perfect love. It's divine intelligence. It's wisdom. And it is flowing in my life, through me, with me, and for me. So here today, I let go of any idea of lack or limitation or any fear. Those things are false ideas, and I've played with them long enough. Today, I lift my eyes to a better knowing for myself. I see myself as God sees me, bold and dynamic, moving out into the world with compassion and love. This is my truth. I celebrate this right knowing, and I release this prayer into the mind of God to do its good and perfect, bold and dynamic work, returning to me multiplied abundantly. And together we say, and so it is. My talk title today is Things That Go Bump in the Night. With Halloween coming up, I thought I'd give myself permission to talk about some of the more metaphysical or spooky elements to our teaching. You know, I love a good mystery. And when you go through history, you do find some things that are just beyond our explanation. One thing that's been very well documented from history is the monk known as Rasputin in World War I, who was a monk for the royal family of Russia. The Russian royal family had a son, and he was crippled by hemophilia. And this monk, surprisingly, could heal him and cure him. There was no explanation for it at the time, and there's still no explanation for it. I love these sorts of mysteries because there is a part of life that's beyond explanation. Our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, in his original textbook, the one that was published in 1926, he loaded it up with all sorts of psychic phenomenon. He had gone to seances, he had talked to mediums, he said he even had conversations with spirits. Now, as he became more successful and the organization became more successful, they urged him to redraft the textbook in 1938. And when he did, he left all of that out. And there were one organizational reason for it. It was because we were really growing as an organization and they wanted to appeal to more of a mainstream audience. But he had his own justification. And I think his were very powerful. He said that while he could guarantee the power in affirmative prayer, he could not guarantee the information that might come from an intuitive. And he wanted to be certain that the information he was giving could change people's lives. Now, the primary reason we don't focus on encouraging people to go to intuitives is because this is really something that you can learn to do for yourself. You're the best receiver for information in your life than anyone else. And you can get the answers you need. Also, when you go to an intuitive, you never get all the answers you're looking for. And also, as we develop spiritually, it becomes harder for people to make those intuitive connections with us. I think it's because Spirit is reminding us that this is something we need to do for ourselves. Now, for some strange reason, I've attracted many people, particularly in my family, but also my teacher, Kennedy Schultz, who loved Halloween more than they loved Christmas. Kennedy was not that fond of Christmas, but he thought Halloween was a very healthy holiday. One, he thought it was very powerful to learn to make fun of your fears. He also thought it was good to get yourself dressed up to the point where you couldn't recognize yourself when you looked in the mirror. Now, if you don't want to spend the time or effort to get a costume to do that, don't worry about it. Age will do that for you. One of the biggest challenges I've had during the epidemic is I have to watch these videos, and oftentimes when I'm watching myself on video, I have to think, when did I become my dad? And it's been a good exercise to, even with that idea, to send love to my body and to love Dad through my body. Now, Dr. Holmes, he made a really startling prediction. And that prediction was that one day, science and religion would walk hand in hand. And for many years, we've thought that it would be through quantum physics that this would occur. But I think in reality, it's going to happen sooner in research that's taking place in near-death experiences and end-of-life experiences. Because scientists are now doing great research in both of those fields and are coming up with some really interesting things. Ever since the hospice movement has started, where there are trained medical people who are watching and are doing it on a daily basis, people die. People have been noticing some really interesting phenomena. In fact, all through history, a lot of this phenomena has been recognized. One very fascinating thing that happens when people begin or people die, often the clocks around them will stop. And this is even happening now with quartz clocks. I've been told that in hospice, a lot of times they will have cats for comfort for the patients. And it's been recognized that these cats can identify which patients are making their transition. In pre-death experiences, people often begin to see family members or spiritual guides that are comforting to them. I have a feeling Colonel Sanders is going to show up for me. Now, the medical industry has been telling us that these are hallucinations. And they initially didn't want to do any research with them because they didn't feel that this was anything real. But if you worked in a psychiatric environment or if you've been around people who've had hallucinations, you know that hallucinations are never comforting. They're always terrifying. If you see Mickey Mouse's head coming out of a wall, that's not a thing of comfort for you. These events are very comforting, and they give a lot of people ease and peace. Now, with near-death experiences, and people who have had these experiences don't like the term near-death, they actually say they're more like near-life experiences because they feel more alive when they've had these experiences. Even when the brain waves and the heart functions have completely shut down, they claim that they're having experiences that make them feel more alive than they ever have here in the physical plane. They also have been able to come back and describe situations that are happening in the emergency room or the operating room, what's been going on, the doctors or nurses have been doing, where they should have no information of that at all. And of course, they get a lot of comfort and they get a lot of ease from it. One unfortunate aspect from them is that they have a hard time adjusting to life when they come back. They say people who have had near-death experiences have a hard time dealing with the mundane details of life. They want to stay focused on the bigger picture. Young students who've had near-death experiences, when they get back, they generally don't do very well in school, but will focus on one subject, either music or art or science or physics, and in that they will display brilliance and genius. It's also a sad reality that the research is that people who have near-death experiences have a higher suicide rate. They just can't adjust to real life. Another strange thing is that a very, very small percentage of them, around 3%, have experiences that aren't good. These people have hellish experiences. And strangely enough, I suspect my dad had one. The research also finds an interesting thing about these experiences is that the way they describe them are very similar to a Dutch painter. His name was Bosch. I won't try to pronounce his first name. He painted in the 1500s. His most famous artwork is the Garden of Earthly Delights. Some of you who are my age will remember it from Elton John, Captain Fantastic album cover, which uses the same kind of imagery. This imagery is mentioned often in people who have these negative experiences. Now, the interesting thing about people who have these negative experiences, they're not bad people. So it's not that they're being punished by something other than themselves. What they've noticed is people who have excessive guilt. The Tibetan Book of the Dead and Living, on their part of their journey from death to back to rebirth, they say we have to confront the wrathful deities of our lives. And these are our fears and these are our guilts. And for the Tibetans, they can appear very wrathful and very angry. But they're just shadows. They're just smoke screens. They're nothing real. And if you ever have any of this experience, if you can just hold one loving idea about yourself, or if you can create a loving feeling about yourself, it will jettison you from any place of fear. Now, the idea of hell itself is, of course, very frightening. Our teaching, we don't believe in hell. We believe that hell can be a state of consciousness. Most of our cultural ideas about hell really don't come from Scripture. The majority of them come from Dante's Divine Comedy, which is really a very poorly named book because it's not a comedy at all. But it really is worth researching and doing some investigating. It's an amazing book. And in it, Dante goes through hell. And he has some very fascinating encounters. He meets two ex-popes in hell. And he gets from hell and he gets to purgatory and he climbs up purgatory and he finally gets to heaven. Now, hell is the really interesting part. Purgatory and heaven are deadly dull. There's really not a lot of excitement going on there. But a strange thing for me personally, I'll share with you, is that I sometimes have experiences where I feel relatives who have transitioned come and visit me. And a grandmother of mine, who I didn't have a really big relationship with, but she was really a lovely and sweet person, she came to me once, and basically where she was and what she was describing is exactly what Dante described as heaven. And this was well before I had even heard of Dante. So, what do we think about people who are going through these hellish experiences? Why have they done that? We don't believe in demons or the devil. There's only one God, and God is only love. We are surrounded by energies of love and comfort, and they're here to help us, and they're here to guide us on our journey. They're not going to solve our life problems for us because that's what we are here to do. We are here to solve our life problems, but they will support us. Now, you're well who have transitioned, who loved you. Primarily, they want you to know one simple thing, and that is that they're still here with you, they love you, and they support you. And that's pretty much it. Now, are there not so good entities around us? Yes, but they have very little power. It's, I think, souls that came into life and that never were attracted to the light. I'm thinking of people like Hitler and Stalin. But you know, while those are two really famous people, there's also a lot of people who are involved in what I call kitchen table horrors. And these people who may have never sought the light won't recognize it when they transition. And they still stay stuck in the physical plane. The only energy they have is from their own obsessions. And they can influence us if we get to a place where we sort of have checked out of our own consciousness. This can happen in indulgent depressions or where we become obsessed, sexual obsession. It also can come when we lose control of ourselves, a place of like deep alcoholism. Now, I'm not talking about just your average afternoon cocktail or even people who've gotten very tipsy. I'm talking about people who drink and they really get out of themselves, but the body is still functioning. Now, I know at this time of the year, people kind of want to go and poke around cemeteries and such, and it's all a bit of fun, but there's no harm in that. But if you really wanted to find some other entities, graveyard wouldn't be a place. If you go to a bar that was catered to alcoholics, and they are always bars that really do just cater to alcoholics, that's where you could find some dark energy. But don't do it. As my mom would say, you don't need to poke a possum in the eye. Stay in your comfort. Stay in your safe place. Spirit provides us a lot of safety, and we don't need to go exploring in places that we're not really needed to go. I have a friend, an intuitive friend in Atlanta. She's very famous. She used to be on the Unsolved Mysteries series. And she would tell me that there was a very well-known psychiatric hospital in Atlanta for children. And that sometimes the psychiatrist would get a hold of a child who was so depressed that they couldn't do anything with them. None of their procedures or none of their therapies would work. And they would call her in to help. And she said all she needed to do was to get the child to hold one positive idea for themselves. And she said that could get them back on the road to recovery. Later on, she had two students who became very, very successful because they ran a real estate agency. They only had really expensive high-end homes. And every once in a while, they would get a home that just had a negative energy to it. And they would ask her to come and do a cleansing. And so she would come with her crystals or her bowl or whatever, and she would walk through. Now, they were paying her very well to do this, but after a time, they were asking her to go all over Atlanta, and she finally just told them, look, guys, just open the windows up and put a new coat of paint on the place. That's all it takes. It's just a little positive energy coming in. Now, interesting story that I can share with you about unsolved mysteries or things that can't be explained is a woman from the turn of the century. Her name was Patience Worth. And she got involved in using a Ouija board. Not something I would recommend, but she contacted a spirit who had been alive during the time of Christ. And she stayed in contact with the spirit all through her life. Together, they wrote a book that became a New York Times bestseller. And it was about the time of Christ, and this entity had been a Roman centurion in this time. And he described the experience of Christ being crucified. Now, the interesting thing about it is it was written in a stream of consciousness point of view. So it makes it very difficult to read. Characters aren't given backstories. They just come up and they start talking as if you know who they are. Another very fascinating point of this is that it's all historically accurate. Historians who have done years of research say, yes, that she captured the real historical events. But this was a woman who was just a housewife. She wasn't educated. She wasn't a researcher. She wasn't a historian. How did she get it? There's no explanation. Now, there is information in the non-physical, and we don't have to use a Ouija board for it. All we have to do is tune in. We tune in by raising our vibration. I walked out the other morning. It was a beautiful sunny morning. The sun was shining on my face. I said to myself, what is Spirit wanting to share with me? And if it's a message coming from Spirit, it's 100% loving and positive. If it's ever 1% not loving, it's not coming from Spirit. It's coming from your own ego. We are loved. We are supported. We are valued. What we're doing here in life is necessary and needed. And we can get that information. Quiet your mind. Get some silence in your life. Honor your sleep time and pay attention to your dreams. And right before you go to sleep, treat that as a sacred space of life. And right when you wake up. Don't turn on the news before you're going to sleep or when you're waking up. It's a good time to, if you're going to watch TV, watch a comedy. Pay attention. What is Spirit sharing with you? And when you see a message from Spirit, acknowledge it and give gratitude. This is the secret formula for anything we want more of in our life. Look for it, acknowledge it, and give gratitude. And contemplate, what is Spirit trying to tell you? What Spirit is trying to urge you is to know that you're good, you're powerful, you're doing wonderful work here. You're not a victim. You're not in a place where you can't overcome the challenges of your life. You have all the power of the universe urging you on to be the best of yourself, to make a difference in the world by your having been here. It's what you've been created to do. You have the power to do it, and now's the time. It's the truth in your life today. It's the truth in mine, and so it is.
It's a little bit funny, this feeling inside. Not one of those who can easily hide. I don't have much money, oh, but if I did, I'd build us a big house where we can both live. If I was a sculptor, then again, no, old man who makes potions in a traveling show. I know it's not much, but it's the best that I can do. My gift is my song, and this one's for you. And you can tell everybody that this is your song. It might seem quite simple, but now that it's done, I hope you don't mind, I hope you don't mind that I put down in words how wonderful life is now you're in the world. I sat on the roof and kicked off the most, well, couple of verses, yes, they got me quite cross. But the sun was quite kind while I wrote down this song. It's with people like you, babe, they keep it turned on. Forgive me for asking, but these things I do say, you see, I've forgotten if they're green or they're blue. But what I mean, what I really mean to say, yours are the sweetest eyes that I've ever seen. And you can tell everybody that this is your song. It might seem quite simple, but now that it's down, I hope you don't mind, I hope you don't mind that I put down in words how wonderful life is that you're in the world. How wonderful life is that you're in the world.
So let's close our service with a final affirmative prayer. Just know this truth with me. There's but one God, one mind, one power. That power called me by name to be right where I am. And right where I am flows all the joy and love of creation. So here today I look out in my world and I say yes. I say yes to my health, my love, my joy, and my prosperity. Spirit has spoke my life into being so that I can be awed with how much it adores me, how much it supports me, how much it encourages me. So this day I proclaim the goodness of my life through my joy, my health, my love, and my prosperity. God won't have it any other way, and neither will I. This is my truth. I celebrate it. I rejoice in this right knowing, and I release this prayer into the mind of God to do its good and perfect, bold and dynamic work, returning to me multiplied abundantly. And together we say, and so it is. All right, my dear friends, know this truth with me. Your life is not a problem to be solved. It's a miracle unfolding. Your job this week is to go name your miracle, proclaim your miracle, and to make it your own. God bless us all. Now, let us go be the miracle God has called us to be. This is Reverend Ken. Till we see each other again, many blessings.